Oh no, is this too thick? I wanted to stay snug, but oh no, wait, it's not too thick. Hiya, my name's Frankie. I guess I'm an artist. I class myself as an illustrator, a tattoo artist. I doodle, and sometimes I get paid for doing these things. Today, I wanted to discuss something that is kind of important to me. I'm colourblind. Being an artist, that's a little tricky.
This would be so much easier if I wasn't colourblind.
Especially as a tattoo artist, actually, because I love pop culture stuff. Here's my extremely grown-up bottle. I often find myself having to do things like Pokemon in my tattoo work. I say having to, I absolutely love it. It's amazing. I adore the fact that I get to do that. But a challenge that comes with it is matching colours, because if I send somebody away with a purple Bulbasaur, they're probably not going to be that happy. And this is something that has been consistent, like pretty obviously throughout my entire life. In fact, one of my earliest memories is being in play school or nursery or kindergarten. I don't know who's watching and what it's called, but little person schooling before actual school. Yeah, I remember being about that age and drawing a glass of water and a kid in the class making fun of me for doing it purple, and I thought I'd done it blue. I didn't realise at the time, I only realised this like maybe 10 years ago, that was actually me being colourblind. I didn't even realise. But yeah, what's the point of this video? I wanted to draw dinosaurs, basically, and I was going to show you how I've been doing it recently and a really useful tool that I've got. It's not a tool, it's a bloody video game. Okay, so the reason for the dinosaurs and the colourblind thing was it doesn't matter what colour you do a dinosaur, because we don't know what colour most of them were at the bare minimum. So you can make it up, and that is exactly what I do. So yeah, how do I draw them? As of late, I have been using a video game. Most of the time I don't use a video game. I will just draw how I draw anything, you know, start with a circle, build out the snout of the creature, you know, just use shapes to draw things. But I thought it would be quite fun to be using Jurassic World Evolution 3 as a reference image finder kind of thing, because there's a photo mode in it. So you can get compositions by building pretty environments and stuff, putting certain dinosaurs together, watching the behaviours the animators have given them, and then being able to take photos of them and turn them into your own work. So I'm going to go through 4 different time lapses that I've done last month, because it was November last month, so I did a few. I'll have on the screen the processes for if I recorded all of them. I don't know if I did record all of them, but at the bare minimum, you will see some of the creation of a Tyrannosaurus Rex, a Maiasaura, a Triceratops, and a Herrerasaurus. The Maiasaura one is what kicked it all off, because I wanted to play about with the idea of the typical mum tattoo that you get. That's more often than not a love heart, a little ribbon, and the word mum. Maiasaura means good mother lizard. That is exactly what it means because of the initial discovery of them being with nesting sites. It was one of the earliest bits of information that led us to believe that dinosaurs were actually nurturing mothers, not like a turtle where they lay an egg and then sod off back to the ocean, but instead they stuck around to raise their young because they were adults with the eggs. Yeah. So using Jurassic World Evolution, I was able to get a lovely screenshot of a mother Maiasaura nuzzling a little baby. Unfortunately, my console of choice is PlayStation, and they have an app where any screenshots you take get sent to that app. So I've got it on my tablet. I can just have the screenshots taken in my game go directly to here. I then open it up in my software of choice, which is Medibang, because it came installed, it's free, and I can't be asked to learn anything else. I then pop that in there. I draw a oval shape because that's what I want my composition to kind of fit in. I adjust it a little bit in terms of the orientation, and then drop the opacity of it so that I can just make it out and draw over the top to get the general shapes of the two creatures. I'm basically just getting a skeleton, then I'm getting rid of that reference picture, and it's all about adding our own foreground plants, background plants, and a little bit of shadowiness kind of thing. These are the first tattoos that I've really done in this style. A lot of what I've been doing so far is very much more cartoony, also known as new school. This one is leaning a bit more towards being neo-traditional. But then it's not neo-traditional either, because I'm not playing by any of the colour rules that are involved in neo-traditional. I just drew them how I draw dinosaurs, basically. and it happens to fit into one category more than it does another. So I do all my sketching in Medibang with a blue pencil because I just like drawing in blue pencil for some reason. Then I print it off on my own simple DeskJet printer, you know, just a simple little at-home printer. But I make sure the opacity is around like 10%, so the line work comes out super light. And then I will use my pocket brush, the Pentel pocket brush pen, to just go over all the line work and render it how I would normally be drawing dinosaurs before I ever got my tablet, how I just used to do it on paper. That is the main way that I use this art tablet. I do all of my sketching, my thumbnailing in here, because you can do it really super quick. I'm not wasting loads of stacks of paper. I'm just wasting, I guess, storage space, which can be freed up afterwards. To get out as many ideas as possible, to figure out the composition, all of the horrible nitty gritty thinking stuff, all the stuff where you have to think. It's really annoying that there's so much thinking involved in good art. Yeah, I get that done on my tablet, and then I can print it off and I will render it by hand with my trusty brush pen, making sure that I get all the line work done that I want to get done. Something that I really like to do with my inking process is a varied line weight. A lot of people like to do a bit more of a vector kind of style, where it's a single solid line weight all the way around, and that approach is great. A lot of animation does it that way. A lot of the editorial kind of artwork, well, actually a lot of editorial doesn't even bother with line work anymore, does it? It's just colored shapes and whatnot. I don't really know what I'm saying. I can explain why I like to do what I like to do. I like to use varied line weights because I believe it adds a lot of energy to a piece and can help me to indicate where weight falls on a piece. If you'd like to hear more about my theory in inking, I'll be happy to share that, but that's a whole different video. So yes, I get on with the inking process and then put it back into my tablet. To do that, I just scan it using a printer, 300 DPI at a minimum, because I will probably want to print it at some point later once all the colors are added. And then when it comes to doing the color, I can do whatever I like. The color blindness don't matter no more. I can just go wild. I have been making a bit more of a conscious effort in the last year to kind of teach myself a little bit of color theory in terms of storytelling. I committed myself to doing a 4-page comic earlier in the year. I gave myself, I think, a month to do it, from just writing out the 4 pages, sketching them, inking them, coloring, adding text. Really simple. Like, on paper that doesn't sound like much at all. But for someone who's never actually drawn a comic, that was a lot of work, and I love comic books. I read a lot of them. Just committing yourself to actually doing it is a whole different ball game. It's a weird thing to get your head around, that you can really, really like something. It doesn't mean you have to create that thing. Not to say that I won't do it again. I really want to punish myself and do it again. It was really rewarding. If you want to see it, I posted it for free on my Patreon. I'll put a link in the description. Like I said, 4 pages, and I think there's only 2 lines of dialogue because I wanted to focus on storytelling without words. Why was I talking about that? Oh, colour theory, yeah. The ideas that I got from that helped influence how I colour things now. Learning about contrasts, not just being light and dark. Like, value is very important, but I've been trying to play with different types of contrasts a little bit more, such as using a bunch of cool colours for backgrounds or something, and then your focal point being a warm colour, maybe. That contrast will help direct the eye. And I definitely do that with a T-Rex design in particular, because that's a really hot red, and then the rest of it's a bit more muted. Another way of doing it is the saturation. Now, when you got your little color picker, I love to use the color wheel when picking my colors for digital coloring, because as a colorblind person, it really helps because I don't actually have to know what color I'm looking at, because I understand where it belongs on the color wheel. I know where red, yellow, blue are, and therefore I know what colors are in between them because I know what happens when you mix certain things. So even if I'm looking at a green, thinking it looks like a pink, I know it's still a green because where it is on the color wheel. I really hope none of my tattoo clients watch this. They're going to start to get a little bit concerned, aren't they, by how broken my color thing is. Don't worry, your flesh is in good hands. In terms of the process of the actual colouring, I tend to do it in 3 separate layers. We start with the flats, and that is picking what colour you want your thing to appear as, like a yellow, blocking in that area as yellow, and then just blocking in the sky as blue, blocking a bush as green, that kind of thing. Then we move on to the second layer, which is the shadow layer. For this, I always go for purple. I'm not sure why. I think it just started because I used to draw a lot of things that were green, and purple and green go really nice together. And then I started to realize that purple goes nicely with most things. Yeah, so I literally just draw in the shadows where I want them to be. I tend to go for quite a harsh edge. I'm not feathering them out and all that. Maybe that's laziness. It is laziness. I don't want to do that. I don't mind the hard edge. I think it looks quite nice and crisp. I don't want to be bothering trying to feather it out. And then when I'm happy with where the placements are, the picture looks really dark at this point, I will take that layer and drop the opacity to between 50 and 70%. Really depends on what colors I'm using underneath. If I'm using really light colors, then that purple is going to influence it a lot more. So I might drop the opacity even more so that it's not being quite as harsh. Yeah, and the reason that I always go for a color rather than doing black and then dropping the opacity of that, because if we do the same thing, it would let some of the original color shine through whilst kind of making it darker, I guess is the only way to say that. That's exactly what a shadow is. Well done. Yeah, while black would do that, I choose not to because that is removal of information. You are literally adding the lack of color. So I always prefer to use a color to add shadows. It's just a personal preference. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. If you like to use black and gray, then go for it. And then the third layer is the highlights. And for this, I will use the color picker to re-grab my flat colors from earlier, the main body of the color. And then I'll just go over to my color picker, the color wheel area, and just choose a color that I think is appropriate. Sometimes it's just a case of moving the little dibbly-dobbly thing up so that it's now a lighter version of that color. And sometimes it's about changing the color entirely. Like oftentimes, if I was to color something that is red, I will be using orange to highlight it, just because I think it's more interesting to slightly move the color instead of just lightening it. Because if I use pink to highlight red, there's something about it I don't like, and I'm not entirely sure what it is. I think maybe it's because it suddenly cools it down. Talking to a camera is kind of useful because I'm actually figuring stuff out about how I do things. Yeah, I think that might be the reason. If I use pink to highlight red, then it makes it kind of cold. If I continue to use things on the warm side of the color wheel, like orange, it's going to continue to make it warm. Color theory. Yeah, and then at this point, I have some dinosaurs. And they're there now on the internet for people to look at. If any of you live in the south of England, West Sussex area, Littlehampton is where I work. If any of you want one of these dinosaurs tattooed on your body, please let me know. I really, really want to do it. Okay, you can leave now.